Welcome back to Proper Madness. I am happy to have you back if you're a returning listener. If you're a new listener, my name is Sabby, and I have a very unique perspective on mental health. I believe wholeheartedly that we can turn anything that we have been through and alchemize it into bettering ourselves mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It helps you feel less alone, to know and understand that the way out is always through the eye of the storm. Grab a cup of tea. If you're not a tea drinker, grab your coffee, and let's sit down and tune into ourselves so that we can learn to connect to other people. We never know the weight of our words and how they might help someone. Hello, we're back. Oh gosh, consistency is really something, isn't it? Welcome back to Proper Madness. I'm sitting here in a very cozy atmosphere, drinking my tea. I'm in a dress today, which is new for me, like on a Sunday. Like why am I wearing a dress on a Sunday with nowhere to go? My nervous system is finally a lot more regulated, and I'm in a very grounded space today, and I love feeling this way. Embodiment and sensuality to me is being not in your head. Like, you know how sometimes, not sometimes, if you're an overthinker and you have a tendency to think about how you're feeling and not actually feel what you're feeling, it can leave you so disconnected from yourself that your head starts to hurt. Like, the thoughts don't ever stop. You can meditate all you want, you can do all the breath work you want, but if you're not embodied and you're not present in yourself, it's not actually going to move through you, if that makes sense. And the reason for that is because this week I had a chance to actually move the emotions that were stuck in my head and stuck in my body through me. Now, there's so many different ways that we can do that. Everyone kind of knows that, like, I dance, and that's something that I enjoy, and that's how I love to move energy, and how I love to move my emotions, and how I like to feel them. But I think sometimes when we're caught up doing the same things over and over and over again in our lives, our body eventually just gets used to it. I learned this with my journey with fitness when I first started in 2013. I'd always have to change and adapt my fitness routine, how I was eating, because my body would adapt, and therefore I stopped changing, I stopped growing. And so every once in a while, we have to lean back into things that are different for our bodies, but in this case, I mean our minds and our emotions, in order to change and grow ourselves. So I grew up doing martial arts most of my life, and very recently I got back into doing that mostly because I had a lot of stuck anger inside of my body and a lot of just pent up frustration. And so when I resorted back to doing something that in my brain was a little bit more masculine, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more forceful, I didn't really want to at first because I felt resistance there. And I always told myself, I'm like, oh no, I don't know. I don't really feel, it doesn't really feel like something I want to do because it's not really feeling like it's in full alignment of where I am right now. And I have so much to say about that. And I talked about this last week. When we're resisting doing something, I feel like 80% of the time it's because our bodies are so used to staying comfortable that when something new comes along or something old, something that challenges us that we used to do because it actually pushed us to grow, our bodies can kind of lie to us a little bit and tell us that something isn't right for us when we actually don't know. If your body's been through a lot of trauma, a lot of chaos, a lot of high highs and low lows, well, then your body's going to be used to keeping you safe in environments and situations and practices that allow you to not grow. And so sometimes we have to challenge ourselves a little bit. I used to do cold plunges all the time too. And I stopped doing that because, again, I had this idea in my head of it's too masculine right now, it's too forceful, I don't know if I want to do it. I'd rather just do the sauna, which is an easier thing to do than to get your butt into like 50 to 40 degrees of water and be in there for 2 minutes. But when I was cold plunging, my nervous system was regulated, and I was able to face more uncomfortable situations and emotions to help get me to where I needed to be. So the reframe here is, what if the uncomfortable things, the things that we don't think are right for us, that we don't think, obviously within reason. I mean, do not be going to go do a bunch of drugs to harm yourself. Don't do anything harmful. You know what I mean? I'm talking about the breath work practice that you've been avoiding, that you know is really good for you, that you should be doing because you're going to feel great afterwards. I'm talking about the cold plunges. I'm talking about upping your exercise routine. I'm talking about challenging yourself in healthy ways to get yourself to grow and to become the best version of yourself. In my story and how I overcame 90% of what I did, it was because I did the things I did not want to do, but I knew were good for me. I went to codependency meetings alone. I went to AA alone. I did all the things for myself that I knew would make me really uncomfortable because I was resisting getting uncomfortable to gain clarity. And so I started doing martial arts again. I started cold plunging again, but the difference is the intention behind it. Because I'm a deeply, deeply feminine person, but that was kind of beaten out of me at a young age because femininity was always seen as weak in my culture and in the way that I grew up. Femininity was seen as softness, and softness was seen as weakness. And so anytime a challenging situation came up, I would harden myself. I'd lean into more masculine practices like martial arts or sports or anything else that would help me avoid what I was feeling. But those things now are helping me feel what I am feeling. When I go do a cold plunge now, I'm not going into it all like, oh my God. I'm not going into it going, oh my gosh, I gotta be a man about this. You know what I mean? I have to be like really stern on myself and hard on myself and get my butt into the cold plunge and force myself to do it. I'm speaking of more the intention behind what we do is what leads us to softness, what leads us to embodiment, what leads us to sensuality. When I train martial arts, I'm not doing it thinking about all the people that I hate. It can have different modalities to it. Maybe I'm doing it because I really want to laser focus and be present, because in martial arts, you cannot be spacing out. You're going to get hit in the face, right? And so when I do any of these things that for me I ran away from because it was too rigid and too forceful, it was because the intention behind them was to escape myself and to harden myself, not using it as a modality to lean in. And so some of these things that we resist or run away from doing ultimately can lead us to the biggest amount of growth in rewiring your nervous system. You rewire your nervous system by retraining your body to teach itself that it's safe with you no matter what condition it's in. Yes, your body is very in tune and very intuitive, but sometimes intuition led by emotion can have you intuitively picking up on things that aren't completely accurate all the time. That's not a good thing, that's not a bad thing, that's just a neutral point, right? Like, when my nervous system is dysregulated and my intuition picks up on something, I'm not going to read it in the correct way. I'll give you an example. Say, okay, the latest example would be, my intuition is always really, really, really good at reading people all the time, every single time. However, in moments where my nervous system is automatically in a state of fight or flight, and my intuition picks up on something, my fight or flight is going to tell me, hey, something's wrong. Now, the brain is an interesting place because we have all these beautiful narratives in our head of our past and what we've been through. And so you have your nervous system's dysregulated, your intuition's picking up on something, and your subconscious mind are all trying to figure out what's actually true. Now, your intuition is always right all the time. But if you're not regulated and you're not changing the narratives in your head, then your intuition is going to give you the story that you want to hear, that you think is going to keep you safe, and that you think is going to prove you right based off of your subconscious beliefs. So if your subconscious beliefs, your nervous system, and your intuition aren't working together, well, then it doesn't matter what the heck your intuition picks up on. It could be like Danger, Will Robinson, and you're probably in a park somewhere, and you're going, yeah, no, but we're in a park. Everything's fine. We have nothing to worry about. Because the narrative in your head is, this park is safe. I've always been at this park. There's nothing wrong with this park. But your intuition's going, no, there's something's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen, but something's going to happen. And so your brain's just going to start connecting dots out of nowhere that don't really need to be connected in the first place. So the way that we heighten our intuition and that we allow our intuition to guide us to where we're supposed to be is to have a regulated nervous system. When your nervous system is regulated, those subconscious beliefs will come up, and you're in a better position to consciously see what's really happening in front of you and what's about to happen or not about to happen, whatever it might be. But you do have to push yourself through the situations and the moments that you're resisting, because it's not what you're used to. And I think we all have this in different ways in our life. For me, it's very easy to put myself in uncomfortable situations physically because that's just something that I'm used to. Now, you put me in a situation where I'm in a relationship dynamic where I'm safe, I'm regulated, all my needs are being met, my nervous system is fine, my intuition's fine. However, my subconscious mind is going to go, oh my God, we're so used to being abandoned. When is it going to happen? But then my subconscious is going to trick my nervous system into becoming dysregulated. And then your intuition, it's a whole mess. It is. It can be messy to learn to trust yourself. It can be messy to lean into the moments that you know are going to make you grow the most, but then blaming your intuition in, no, I'm just going to avoid this because intuitively something feels off. Well, you don't know what's actually off. You won't know what's actually off until your nervous system is regulated. And you know when your nervous system is regulated because you're not running away from yourself, you're not running away from your emotions, and you're just leaning in. And you can feel when you're uncomfortable. You can feel when something is not right. You feel it. You sense it. You know it. That is where trust lies. But you have to develop trust with yourself like you do with any new relationship in your life. Trust doesn't come like that when you're so used to mistrusting yourself, when you're so used to ignoring your intuition, when your subconscious mind is used to a narrative that you've repeated over and over again. There are things that you have to rewire and redo in order to change how you respond to situations and how we grow. Now you're sitting there going, Savvy, what the heck is this about? Well, because I've found a way to rewire my nervous system, I'm able to trust myself, I'm able to trust my intuition, and therefore, whatever I create artistically can be made from a place of sovereignty and not a place of validation. Not feeling your emotions doesn't mean you're regulated. You're just in a different state of fight or flight. And I was there for weeks on end, and I had no idea until I was in a situation where I was able to somatically heal my body and emotions and ideas and thoughts and stories that were stuck because I didn't have a safe enough place to feel those things. And until I was given a safe place to feel those things and somatically heal and somatically move through emotions, that's when my nervous system became regulated again. You regulate your nervous system by feeling, not by avoiding, not by suppressing, not by working out, not by taking something. You regulate yourself by feeling into it. Nervous system regulation, yeah, you can do all the biohacking you want, but if you're not actually feeling your emotions deeply on a cellular level, on a spiritual level, you're always going to be in fight or flight. You're always going to chase high highs and low lows because the highs are trying to get you into a state of mind where you feel euphoric and you feel like you're the best thing on this planet and you're God's gift to the world. The lows are going to make you feel like you're worthless because you're avoiding yourself. So when we haven't somatically healed or moved emotions through our body, it doesn't really matter what situation or what blessing we are given. Our nervous system and our intuition are not going to be in coherence, and they're going to be so out of whack that we actually won't be able to make the right decision or see things very clearly because it's going to be fear-based. It's going to be survival-based. It's going to be based off of a feeling instead of clarity. So when the uncomfortable moments come up in your life, when you're faced with situations where you know you should lean in because it's going to help you grow, lean in. Softening in the discomfort is what breeds growth. Softening when your body is going through chaos is what allows you to re-regulate yourself and your nervous system. Our best work is done when we have the ability to sit with ourselves and create from embodiment instead of rushing. I had a friend of mine a long time ago tell me, he's been on my podcast, tell me that when I create, I shouldn't just be creating to create. I should sit a little bit more. Sit with what you're creating and then put it out there. Because that teaches you two things. One, it teaches you to sit with yourself and to sit with your art, not critique it, not put yourself down, not try to perfect it, but to sit with yourself. Art is created from truth, and truth is created and told from sovereignty. If you're just creating to create and putting things out there because you want to be seen so badly, well, it's giving pick-me energy and people can feed off of that, and you're going to burn yourself out. Plain and simple. If you're creating from a place of just creating to create, it won't actually have any real impact on people. So if you want to help people, if you want to help the world, if you want to tell your story, if you want to do something that changes lives, it has to come from a place of sovereignty first, not validation. Because how can we serve the world and people and the collective if we don't even know who we are? If we can't speak from our own sovereignty, then you're just kind of throwing everything out into a void and it's not going to stick. So when the discomfort comes, when the moment of growth presents itself to you, lean in and soften. It's so easy to, when you're hurt, when you're mad, when you're rejected, whatever it is, to close yourself off. And we've all been there. I've done it plenty of times. I just did it recently. But what's easier and sounds counterintuitive to do is to stay open, is to keep your heart open. Because when you shut down when you're hurt, when you shut down when you're angry, when you shut down when you're mad, you're shutting yourself off from feeling, and therefore you're shutting yourself off from your truth. And you can numb out in so many different ways. I replaced one addiction with another when I was recovering for a while, right? Like I went to extremes. Like I stopped doing all the, terrible things to my body. And then I got super into fitness, but then that became an addiction. And then I got so off the deep end that I didn't understand how to have balance in my life with my diet, with working out. I didn't enjoy it. It felt like punishment. And then I went to another extreme where I was operating in a lot of masculine energy that I then dropped back into some highly, highly, highly feminine energy where I never did anything ever and just was like, la la la, I have no structure. And so all these extremes, when you're recovering from anything, right? The extremes are what we're used to, so we try to figure out a way to mimic that subconsciously. But that's not a regulated nervous system because you're still numbing yourself out through the extremes. But let the intention be to feel the pain, to feel the discomfort, and to soften anyways. I don't know if this episode made any sense. But I hope it did. And I hope that the next time you're faced with something that makes you uncomfortable, or something that challenges you, or something that you're resisting, you lean in. That's the only way you will grow. You can manifest all you want, you can pray all you want about all the things that you want in life, but when they come to you, if your nervous system isn't regulated enough to receive it, because it's not in your norm of what you're used to, your body is going to think there's something wrong with it when the reality is actually it's just different and you're not able to receive. You're not able to receive because you're scared of change. You're scared of what that might look like, and you're scared of fully diving in. Lean into the discomfort. Lean into the things that you are running away from and that you're resisting. Obviously, nothing that's like detrimental to yourself physically. You know what I mean? Like let's not get crazy. But other than that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you on the next one. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube or whatever streaming platform you happen to be listening to this on, I encourage you to follow, like, subscribe, and rate this so that it pushes it out to whoever else might need it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you ever want to chat more about anything that this podcast is about, you know where to find me. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and good old TikTok. And be sure to stay tuned for my Tea Time with Sabby episodes.